Joining us now, Republican Representative Tom Price of Georgia. Representative Price, welcome back to the program. Dr. William Calvin, a professor, nice to see you, professor at the University of Washington and an expert in alternative energy and a nuclear energy and climate change project manager from the Union of Concerned Scientists, Ellen Vanko. And it's a pleasure to have all three of you. Thank you so much for the time. Calvin, I'm going to begin with you on the science front. I want to go through some of the most basic fears. One fear is the water boils off, the rods break for whatever reason, and now I just have all these uranium pellets inside of the nuclear reactor, and I get effectively a meltdown because there's nothing to stop that nuclear reaction. What would be the worst case scenario in a situation like that?
A slag heap in the basement, basically.
Say it again?
You get a lot of heat. you get a big meltdown, and it's basically a slag heap in the basement of the building. The main problem that you get from that is, of course, fire. The fire can spread around a lot of contamination. That's why most modern reactors have a containment around them to keep that fire product
so basically, the thing it would catch fire. The concrete and steel theoretically prevent the fire from doing damage outside of the reactor. Is that correct?
Right.
Now, the other...
And most of the problems in the past have been plumbing problems. That is to say, it's been something in the cooling system for the thing that has gone wrong.
The other fear people have, whether it's, again, concrete or not, a terrorist attack on a nuke. An airplane flies into this whole facility, blows it up. What's my worst case scenario?
Well, it'd be the same thing if they flew it into a plant that made pesticides. That is to say, you'd have contamination that would last for a considerable length of time. You do not get anything more than a steam explosion and fire. There's no nuclear explosion to any of this.
So there's nothing that I could do to a nuclear reactor that would create the parallel event or energy release of an atom bomb. Is that correct?
No, not at all.
So, Representative Price, what is the political reception in Georgia to the possibility of these nuclear plants being built in Georgia in the context of some of the fear and fantasy that has surrounded nuclear power for a long time in this country?
Well, Dylan, thanks. I'm really impressed with your scientific knowledge. Here in Georgia, as well as across the land, I think the American people want, as you say, to decrease our reliance on foreign oil. And so anything we can do responsibly and safely to do that is a good idea. We believe strongly that having this nuclear power plant here in Georgia will significantly decrease our energy costs, and I think we can do it safely. I think that certainly the scientists there mentioned how you preserve the safety of all of this. In the United States working right now safely. We ought to continue to expand this because it is safe and clean energy.
Ellen, one point that you made when you saw this news was this looks like pork, and understandably, you can look and you can see the lobbying money from some of the power generation companies to the Obama campaign, and then you can see the loan guarantees coming back to them. Do you look at this purely as pork, or do you see some merit to it, and maybe just the allocation as to who gets the contract is riddled with traditional political favor trading?
I'm not sure. I think from a political standpoint.
I'm going to Ellen, you guys. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ellen.
Sorry. I'm not sure we can take the politics out of anything that goes on in Washington.
Fair.
But I think the real issue is what is the risk that the government and therefore the taxpayer are taking, not only for this plant, which is the first plant to receive a conditional loan guarantee. It can't get the actual loan guarantee until the Nuclear Regulatory Commission actually approves the license of the plant.
But when you say risk, I'm sorry to interrupt you, you're talking about economic risk because of the loan guarantees?
Yes, we're basically underwriting the loan at the federal level so that if there's any default on the part of this utility or any other utility that gets a loan guarantee, the taxpayer. Good.
Understood. So, Representative Price, there's an issue, a risk issue that has nothing to do with enriched uranium and has once again to do with the government guaranteeing loans, this time for a power plant. How do you respond to that concern?
Well, in fact, the loan guarantees are exactly what's necessary because of the federal government length of time for the approval and the regulatory process to work. You can't have private industry guaranteeing all of this when they don't know how long that period of time is that they're going to put their money at risk. And that's why the loan guarantees are so incredibly important and a positive step, again, so that we can decrease our reliance on foreign oil.
Do you think we're going to see similar loan guarantees, and I have to wrap this up, for everything from conversion to natural gas for transportation fuel to wind farms for power generation, Representative Price? Or do you think that this is political favor trading in the sense of the nuclear industry being favorable to the president in his campaign and as a result getting payback?
Oh, I think what we ought to do is expand in all areas where we can safely create energy. And the same kind of regulatory process stymies our ability to utilize American resources effectively and safely for Americans, whether it's offshore or onshore or clean coal or oil shale or nuclear energy. All of those things ought to be streamlined, and we ought to be moving toward a system where we are not relying on foreign oil.
Yeah, the foreign oil issue, I think, is really the biggest issue this country faces. I thank all three of you for the conversation and the time. Thank you, Representative Price. Thank you, Calvin. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you both.
Thank you.